Oh, man. So this is going to be fun. Okay.
Right.
So we're in a good place. And, so no questions and we're good?
Yeah.
Awesome
Right,
stuff.
we'll start recording.
Okay.
Do it.
Start recording?
I didn't even catch that.
Shit. Hold on. We got to do this whole thing over again.
From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Broadcasting from the churn.
Still no jokes?
Dr. Jim Jovan, I'm Nick Tangevin.
God.
It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Do you not even read the complaints that I
That's-
submit to you?
6 weeks in a row.
Ah,
No jokes.
fans, you're going to have to shame him back into the joke. The jokes were good.
Good luck.
I feel like I spent a year just flattering your jokes, just to fan that ember into a flame.
Yeah, and
you
was
just put it out.
It was insincere, and I felt
It wasn't
it.
insincere. I laughed my ass off. You've
Yeah.
had some zingers. Was it Jacob? Did he intimidate you?
A little
Did
bit.
he hurt your
Yeah.
spirit?
Yeah.
Damn you,
It's
Jacob.
Jacob.
He's just being all funny and shit right in front of you.
Arguing about whether or not to tell a joke.
It's
I can't think
great.
of a better way to start a show.
Welcome to the podcast. Hooray.
May or may not tell a joke.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
tell you a better way to start the podcast is with a guest. We are so excited. We have a guest with us today, and she's British, which
Yeah.
means she speaks with authority.
Yes.
If you're from America. From anywhere else in the world, you fucking hate her, which probably makes sense.
Joining us, we have Charlie Quinn Starling.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Super excited to get to have you. And so we'll set the stage for the meeting we're having. So you have been on Twitter and definitely out in the world, and you've talked a lot about mental health, been a big mental health advocate, as well as a performer and somebody in Vegas. And so our paths have just crossed lots and lots of times where, we're having the same conversations out loud. Getting pissed off about the same stuff, and trying to advocate. So we are just so excited to get to have you today and dig deeper into you in your human story.
Yeah.
You've always been really transparent with the world and really encouraged people to just own their truth and not to have shame and to destigmatize. So we are super thrilled to have you here. And we should start with reintroducing you to the general audience. Patrons already got to meet you a little bit, but tell us about you and your professional life. What do you do?
Hi. So I do a lot of different stuff. I'm a burlesque performer first and foremost, I think.
My old job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
She took it.
Swarovskis
She
or
took my job.
Preciosa?
The second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was Wiener Schnitzel, actually.
cheaper one,
is the one
of
that I
course.
did. Yeah. Oh, shit. Did I picked the racist one again? I always do that.
I am a professional semi-naked lady.
Okay.
Naked every now and again. I'm actually celebrating my 10th year as a professional naked lady
Wow.
in the year of my dirty horse birthday.
Oh, nice.
Makes me so happy.
I need you to know these puns are really working for me.
Oh,
Keep
good.
those going.
Good. So I take my clothes off to music in nerdy and sparkly ways. Is the best way to describe burlesque, I think. I've been in theatre in one way or another since I was really, really young. Always thought I wanted to be in musical theatre, but struggled for many reasons that we will definitely get into. Because that's your guys' job. And then kind of steered away from musical theatre towards the cabaret side of things because I could make my own rules. I didn't have to be around too many people. I've been dancing this whole time. I've been singing this whole time. I also love food. I've worked in hospitality on the side for many years as well. I used to be really passionate about the alcohol side of things as well. Partially because I am an alcoholic. About to have my 4th sober anniversary, though.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's great.
I'm one of many people I know who moved out to Vegas and got sober.
Isn't that interesting?
That is, and that I know a lot of people who've done that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really bizarre.
The
but-
recovery community in Las Vegas is one
actually-
of the finest in the world.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
real here, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it has to be. I think that's
yeah.
part of it too. It's
Yeah.
like it's no
It's just
joke.
necessity.
It's 24 hours. We all know that. Not
Yeah.
every city has drive-through liquor stores. Like
Well,
you
not
have
only
to
that,
work together.
not only just the lifestyle 24 hours, because I think that's pretty common
Sure.
anywhere, but
Yeah.
but the recovery community is 24 hours too.
Yes.
Like you can find a meeting going on any hour of
Right.
any day.
Right.
Well, and the social life is
Constantly.
there. There's,
Right.
pool parties and barbecues and just a lot of genuine support.
Right.
And like even if you're not 12-step, like just the recovery concept of like people supporting people, that's huge. So 4 years.
4
That's
years.
awesome.
So I got to ask you what they ask. How'd you do it?
How'd I do it? Rock bottom and rehab.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
That'll do it. Good for you. So got
Thank
treatment.
you. I did, yeah.
Good
Excellent.
job. Fantastic.
Yeah. Michael's house out in Palm Springs.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys. It worked.
Yeah. Pod Therapy brought to you by Michael's house.
Yeah. I hated it when I was there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sure.
no. We've both run rehabs here in Las Vegas, so we get it.
Yeah, and I'm sure if any of them are hearing this, they'll be like, "What?
Oh yeah, were you one
She's
of those?
Speaking of us fondly,
Yeah,
what?"
yeah.
Well, yeah, like my diagnoses are bipolar 2, borderline personality disorder, and possible ADHD.
Ah.
So, I'm blanking on the word now. Withdrawal. There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Withdrawal plus all of that. I was no fun.
Yeah.
I was no fun at all.
Oh yeah, I'll
Yeah.
bet. So I appreciate you already opening the conversation toward mental health, and so you're
Yeah.
talking about sobriety from alcoholism. You're talking about co-occurring issues of
Yeah.
bipolar 2,
Yeah.
and then also borderline personality disorder.
Yeah.
And these are things we've chit-chatted about on the show before, but let's hear from you. What was it like, what is it like to have a bipolar disorder?
Well, initially I was diagnosed as bipolar 1, but I think a lot of my extreme symptoms were occurring due to the alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a major episode since I got sober, so my psychiatrist has kind of spun me down to bipolar 2.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think I'm bipolar. I think it's ADHD, but we'll get to that. It's exhausting. Like how to describe it? Not being able to trust your own experiences is a big thing with me. Like if I'm not sure whether you saw me tweet it, but I was starting to feel a bit better lately, and I was doing things. I was like, oh, I'm baking, I'm planting vegetables. Does this mean I'm heading for a crash? Because that tends to be what happens. It's like, am I hypomanic right now, or am I just doing okay?
Right.
So there's always the fear of, is this real or is this bipolar?
Yeah. And it's something I think the general public often misunderstands. A lot of people, use the word bipolar as a slur.
Oh, it's
all the time.
Infuriating.
Oh, God, yeah. There's few things that'll get me to yell at somebody in the store faster. Or they'll think bipolar disorder is emotional mood swings.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're moody. You're bipolar, which, again, is mostly a slur. You just use that word hypomanic, which is the big distinguishing thing. It's a different state of mind. It's not just a mood. It's an entire ability to be either in one stage or the other. Do you cycle rapidly? Do you have a pattern that you've noticed at all?
I'm very reactionary, which is one of the things that makes me think it's more ADHD than bipolar.
Doesn't have predictable cycles.
Yeah. I mean, generally I'll be up in the summer and down in the winter.
Okay.
In normal times. But then again, I am extremely reactionary, and I'm just now learning about rejection sensitive dysphoria.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that on a very deep level. Like if anything knocks me off kilter, it will really knock me off kilter. Like to the point where it will be major depressive episode for a couple of days, having to stay in bed, being talked down off a ledge, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that reactionary pattern, stimuli in your environment, stuff that's happening to you, bam, you might crash, or you might be elated, and you might find yourself elevated.
Yeah.
When you're hypomanic, teach people what that looks like. A lot of folks probably find that word strange and don't know what that means.
Yeah, so hypomania is almost described as a more watered-down version of mania.
Yeah.
So it's... like you feel really good. You feel like the best version of yourself, but probably don't look like the best version of yourself from outside because you're not taking care of yourself. You're making strange decisions. Like one example I could give, a couple of summers ago when the world was still accessible.
Back in the before times, yeah.
Yeah, I just decided I was going to go on vacation, and I put a bunch of flights and hotels and stuff on my credit card, maxed out this credit card just because it felt good.
Right.
And I went on vacation, and I couldn't afford it.
Right.
I absolutely couldn't afford it, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. And then I get home, and I'm all of a sudden in financial trouble. I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, and then there's
There
that
it
crash.
is. Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah, because your decision making definitely takes a hit.
Yes.
Like I feel like what people were thinking were major manic episodes when I was still drinking or drugging was me being hypomanic and then going on a drug binge.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of dangerous, and I'm now at the stage where I'm thinking that I can catch the signs early enough that I can sort of slip my credit cards to my husband and be like, we need to keep an eye on me for a week or so.
Very good.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, that's something that I think is really important, not just for the mental health piece, but the addiction piece as well, is being able to get to that point where you can start to identify early warning signs, and then you've got a system in place. So when I see X, Y, and Z, I do A, B, C, and D as kind of a preventative measure to just keep me safe.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think even to get to that point, the really challenging thing that people have to go through is it's almost kind of like being in a storm out at sea, you know, where you almost just kind of have to let everything settle for a second to figure out what is causing what, and is this, or is it this over here?
Yeah.
Is this the alcohol?
Right.
Is this... And that's one of the things that, I mean, when we were running the rehab, that's like the first few days of somebody coming in, we're not doing anything. Like, it's just...
Well,
just relax.
The detoxing.
Let's just let everything settle. Let's not do anything. Let's just
and it's
slow
interesting
down.
because in rehabs,
I played a lot of Scrabble.
you
When
read
I
a
was
lot of books,
detoxing.
play a lot of
Yeah.
Scrabble. Everybody starts smoking and drinking coffee. Yeah, just hanging out by the coffee pot. But this is something that happens in rehabs a lot. I mean, one, bipolar disorders are very, very associated with substance abuse.
Yeah.
A lot of times because they're self-medicating and because of both manic and hypomanic episodes, impulse control gone, grandiosity there, huge energy, huge confidence, huge excitement, spontaneity, really poor judgment, no inhibitions.
Yeah.
Like just go, go, go. You know,
The
it's like
insomnia too.
insomnia.
Like when other people would be going to bed, I'm still wide awake and
Ready to play.
buying more drugs.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Somebody asked me once, if you had to describe mania simply, what would it be? And I'd say meth without the meth. It's like being tweaked out on meth, but no meth, you know, and like obviously the difference for the general listeners, by the way, she mentioned this, but just to put it out there really quick, the difference between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 has a lot to do with how high that manic episode goes. And so if it gets to the point where like there's no reality anymore and like you're just out of it, like almost psychotic symptoms, now we're starting to lean toward 1. But a lot of times, as you were saying, it's really hard to diagnose whether it's 1 or 2, or even if it's there at all, because it's comorbid with substance abuse.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, you go to rehab, we're just trying to figure out who you really are. Like, once we get all the drugs out of you, once you've started dealing with you, what's your real baseline?
Yeah.
And it sounds like for you, was that whenever this diagnosis started to materialize?
Yeah, it was. And like I was in treatment, and they said, okay, we think this is what you've got. Here's some referrals for therapists and psychiatrists back in Vegas. Make sure you get in touch with them when you leave. I mean, I had great insurance, so they tried to put me in sober living, and I'm just like, no. Because that's a thing.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Yeah, for helpful communities, they're also vultures.
Yes.
So, yeah, I got back to Vegas afterwards, and I was like, okay, what's up?
Yeah, right.
What have I got? It's time to figure it out now, right? And they wouldn't give me a formal diagnosis until I'd been sober for 3 months.
Yes.
And my formal diagnosis at that time was bipolar 1, which has been spun down now to bipolar 2. But during last summer, having all of this time and space to figure out who I am, and when I don't have being professionally tired as an excuse anymore for all of my dysfunction, I managed to have a real in-depth conversation with my psychiatrist. I'm like, this is a list of my symptoms.
Good job.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. It was really, really tough, but I'm super proud of myself for finally getting there. And she was like, oh, that sounds more like borderline. I'm like, yeah,
So it was
I know.
only recently. They
Yeah.
only caught borderline recently.
Yeah, but
Wow.
my mother has borderline personality disorder. So I've recognized it. And mental health in general has been something that I've been hyper-focused on since I was about 14 or 15.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's when I kind of learned the extent of what my mother went through. Because she's always been super candid with me about stuff as well. I mean, one of the symptoms, I'm sure you guys know, you're therapists, of things like borderline and bipolar is we overshare. And there's a funny meme out there. It's like, why do you share on social media so much about your mental illness? Because I'm mentally ill.
Answer was in the question.
Yeah. So where was I? Yeah. So I've known what the hallmarks of borderline personality disorder are since forever, really.
Yeah.
But the thing is, apart from when I've been high, I don't think I've exhibited any of the major symptoms of either. But I didn't know anything about ADHD. And here's how recent all of this is, right? Since the pandemic, I had nothing to do, so I made a TikTok account. And the TikTok algorithm diagnosed me quicker than any doctor ever has. Basically, within a couple of months, TikTok started showing me all of these neurodivergent creators. They're all autistic and they all have ADHD.
Interesting.
And they're all talking about my experience.
Wow.
And there's this trend on there, like put a finger down challenges.
Oh, yeah.
It's like put a finger down if you yada, yada, yada. And
Yeah.
every single ADHD one, I was 10 fingers down.
Wow.
Every time. And there's this creator on there called Katiosaurus who ended up on my For You page more often than not because she has the big three that I pretty much do. She's a bisexual nerd who is neurodivergent. And like she posts about neurodivergency, she posts about Dungeons and Dragons, and she posts about kink. So I'm like, okay.
Just targeted you.
Yes.
Man, those three crosshairs just found me.
Yeah. And like I thought she'd been put onto my For You page because of the kink stuff. But then
Yeah.
when she started talking in depth about her ADHD, and she was diagnosed really late as well, I'm just like, what is this thing that I had no idea about? Because one, I'm a woman, and two, I'm really intelligent. So I was never going to get diagnosed
Right.
with ADHD. It's just
Yeah.
not done. ADHD is something that hyperactive little boys have, not like focus.
Right.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
and my problem isn't hyperactivity. It's inability to focus.
Right.
Like, I have always described the inside of my mind and like my thought process. I don't think in words and I don't think in pictures. It's like constantly moving water in there. And when I talk or write, it only materializes once it's out of me. And I thought that's just how everyone was.
Right.
Until quite recently.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what executive dysfunction was, but I knew that my life didn't get better when I got sober, and my life didn't get better when I was medicated for bipolar disorder.
Right.
I was still executively dysfunctional.
Right.
Which means, like, I find it very difficult to start and maintain tasks.
Yes.
So my habitat is a fucking pigsty. I'm so disorganized. I forget everything. My house is a mess. And my husband, who very kindly said I have his permission to talk about all of this stuff, because he's deeply involved. He's my husband. We share a house. Like, he's found it really, really difficult. As of course he has. He, like, from outside, it just looks like I'm lazy or I don't give a fuck about our house or him. But I do. I'm sat there, like, racing constantly. So yeah, I took all of this information to my psychiatrist the month after she'd said maybe you have borderline. I was like, this is happening.
Yeah.
Can we try some ADHD meds and see what happens?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I have a history of drug addiction. So she's like, we can't, like, they won't give you stimulants. Right. They just won't without a formal diagnosis. So currently I'm on Strattera.
Okay.
And it's working.
Yeah, it is?
Yeah.
Wow. Good for you.
And like, this is a few weeks ago, like, it's a couple of months ago now, I had tweeted, like, I don't trust whether this is hypomania or not because I'm functioning like a human.
Right.
And the only other times I've been functioning like a human, it's been I'm hypomanic or manic and I'm about to crash. But that's 2 months ago now.
Wow.
And I'm improving exponentially.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Thank you. So
that's huge.
Yeah, it's been a real massive thing in my life. Like, it's been 4 years since I got sober and expecting my life to get better, and it just didn't.
Right.
For so long, you start to think, especially when you have a mood disorder too, you just start to think that you're defective.
Right.
And, like, I'm just a shit person. I just can't do this. I can't do that. I'm a mess. I'm lazy. But all of a sudden, I've found this thing, which is, it wasn't anywhere on my radar that this might be what was wrong with me. But it turns out I'm not shit and I'm not lazy. And there are people all over the world who feel exactly the same as I do. And although it's a neurodivergency, so it's not something that can be cured, I can make it easier.
There's a better way to manage it. There's a better way.
Yeah.
It's funny. We were just talking about this in the episode we just recorded. About
somebody wrote in about the TikTok
algorithm.
diagnostics.
Yeah.
And that it was ADHD. The person was writing in saying, hey, I think TikTok thinks I have ADHD, and now I'm starting to notice this, and this is actually really helpful.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got to comment on several parts of your journey here. I think several things are really important to note, just for the general audience.
Okay.
One, a lot of times, addiction isn't just addiction. A lot of times, it's self-medicating other things. You had said, even though I got sober, my life didn't get better. I would probably come alongside you and say, it got a lot less worse, probably, right? Because now we don't have the drugs messing everything up.
Yeah.
And it provided the clarity over 4 years' time
Yeah.
to experiment with better help, you know, to try to get good therapy, good medicine, and ultimately has led to the pleasant circumstances of today.
Yeah.
So definitely we stand on the bedrock of recovery, you know, that we don't have that, you know, that problem in our lives. But the other thing you talked about in there, and I really liked this, the way that people need to learn to manage their healthcare provider. A lot of times people walk in, they talk to a psychiatrist, you sound like you have a good one. That's rare. A lot of people have trouble with their psychiatry
Yeah.
where they don't feel heard. They feel like they're just being, what are you here for? Well, I have anxiety. Okay, here's anxiety. No, wait, you didn't. Let me finish. I have depression. Okay, here's depression med. No, there's a bigger story here. Please let me tell you this.
Yeah.
And I like that part of your story where you were really intentional to manage this person. Not combative. They're your helper. They're there to help, but collaborative. You didn't just allow them to be the one driving the car. You came alongside them and said, I'm studying myself because I know you can't follow me around. Here's what I am noticing. And luckily your provider said, okay, wait, that's important. There's a lot of observations here that I want to work with. And now we're finding a whole new level.
Well, and the interaction too with ADHD and addiction is interesting too. Because one of the places I worked, the psychiatrist, our medical director, just started screening everybody on his caseload for adult ADHD.
Oh, wow.
Because there was
So common.
it was a very common interaction between those two.
Yeah.
Not necessarily saying one causes the other, but
Also self-medicating, right?
is
Which
a big part of
bipolar,
it.
ADHD, yeah,
right. And then a lot of that stuff does go undiagnosed. We're better at catching it now because we can screen for stuff. We know what to look for. But for those of us who kind of grew up just after that phase, after we kind of figured it out, because it gets caught in school. Outside of school, you don't catch it.
Right.
And you get to the point where you're an adult, and if they had been screened and captured while in school, then you understand, like, okay, this is ADHD. Once you get out of school, then you're just a lazy adult.
Right.
Or then you've got all these other problems, and people don't think about the ADHD aspect of it. But it is really interesting to see that connection and the link sometimes between ADHD and addiction.
It is.
Well, from what I've read, and I'm just learning about hyperfocus as well, which is ADHD. I'm currently hyper-focused on ADHD.
Well said.
So now you're going to start seeing it more often.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing it more often, and I'm
Very
reading.
good.
It is something that I can currently focus on because it's now my special interest. Which is more an autism thing, but ADHD and autism are
they're adjacent. Yeah.
like two halves of the same coin, I think. So where was I?
Hyper-focusing on ADHD, which is ironic because you're also learning about hyperfocus.
Yeah, but I was gonna say I'm learning about something in particular. I'm back. ADHD. So a lot of what leads into addiction with people with ADHD is a dopamine deficiency, and that's also why we can't focus on one thing for a long time, because we're so depleted in dopamine that we're constantly looking for dopamine spikes everywhere. And that's why we're all addicted to our phones as well, because this little thing is perfectly designed to make my brain feel better. Because it's a new dopamine hit every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to stay on a task that isn't giving you a new dopamine hit every 30 seconds, unless it's something that you're hyper-focused on, like me currently with ADHD.
Right. Now it's the well you'll swim in. That's so interesting. The journey you've been on between, recognizing alcoholism, transitioning out of that, and they said, okay, you have to be sober for 3 months, and then we can start talking about your mental health. Then they say, hey, we think it's bipolar 1. You go, okay, great, let's help me, please. And then you start working on that. And they say, you know what, looks like you're doing better. It's probably bipolar 2. And you say, great, let's adjust. Figure this out, please. Keep working on it. Then they come back and they say, you know what, we also think you have borderline personality disorder, which we're going to talk about in a second. And then now, kind of evolved all the way to this looks like ADHD.
Yeah.
I want to ask about borderline personality disorder because I think that's a whole nother basket of things that can affect people, and it's very important to talk about. But just quick PSA for the listeners. We've had so many people over the years who have sometimes written in about getting exhausted in their mental health search for answers. And I just want to take a second to shine a light on our guest and say, hey, don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't lose hope. This can get better. Be relentless. Keep going. Do the next best thing or the next right thing that you can do. Was that the perfect answer when she got help for bipolar 1? No. Was it the perfect answer to just get sober? No. Were they part of the puzzle? Sure. It's part of the journey. She wouldn't be here today if she had given up back then.
No.
So I just want to shine a light on that because I think how you've handled your mental health is so important.
Also, the willingness to try Strattera.
Yeah.
As opposed to, because what I see a lot of times happen is people will, when they research it, they understand like, okay, this is definitely what I have, therefore this is the treatment that I need.
Right. Yeah,
and
that
then,
happens a
but
lot.
it's not always that easy to just go right to that treatment, and sometimes you have to try things along the way, and having that open-mindedness and willingness to, all right, well, let's try it and see how it works.
Yeah.
Because occasionally you get situations like that where it's like, wow, this actually worked really well.
Yeah. I'm so relieved that it's working because the wait list for the Center for ADHD here was 2 months long.
Oh, wow.
I'm like 2.5 weeks out from my appointment right now. But
wow.
That's frustrating.
Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. You'd think privatized healthcare would be better.
Yeah. You'd think.
Was that an English dig?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. I just want to know where it's coming from.
Received.
Yeah, that's cool. They also have crumpets, I'm told. So.
Yeah, I'm paying for it
That's right.
a lot. Make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I digress. So I'm finally getting my appointment at the ADHD center, and I'm still going to go through with all of that because the more help, the better. But I don't feel like getting on Adderall is the end goal here because I do feel like Strattera is helping me, and if I can stay off of stimulants, great.
Yep.
Yeah, and by the way, I think that was another right attitude thing that you did that I think is really, really important. A lot of times we see that, and this is so speaking of the royal wedding, or not royal wedding, what was the thing? The royal divorce?
The Oprah interview?
The Oprah interview, that's it. I'm told that...
It happened like a month ago.
Yeah, who knows? Eternity's passed. So one of the things I was told that was interesting about this, I didn't watch it, was that the English people obviously are very interested.
Hold on, just a moment. Just want to take a note.
Yeah.
This is Jim talking about something that he knows nothing about.
Hold on, it goes full circle. You'll be impressed.
He hadn't even looked at it.
No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. This is going to land on my feet on this one. I'm going to stick the landing.
Are you?
I'm going to do it. So I'm told that the English people, as they were watching, do you prefer to be called Britons? I don't know. Okay, Londoners, whatever.
British.
Those people.
The last one you did. That's a good one.
The tyrannical folk that we've divorced from. Anyway, I'm told that the English people, when they were watching this American interview...
It doesn't matter how many times you
let it go. Let it go. You're not going to change it.
Whatever. So anyway.
It's like looking at a river and going, could you go that way?
Yeah, Europeans. Okay, so... But I'm told that the
Closer.
English people...
Weirdly.
But not anymore.
The English people were watching this
Still on the
interview.
continent.
I'm there. Okay, yeah. So the English people were watching this interview, and I'm told that one of the most shocking things for them was the amount of pharmaceutical commercials that were on American television. And these people are looking around going, what in the name of God is going on here? You guys can just put commercials on, talk to your doctor about, this or that. Like, what? Like that? Because it's not allowed in most European nations.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, in any way, the full circle I wanted to make there was how you had commented, Nick, about, hey, way to settle for Strattera. Strattera, just for the general audience real quick, Strattera is indicated for ADHD. It is an ADHD medicine. It's not the one you'd thought of, though, right? You've heard of Adderall, or you've heard of Ritalin if it's a kid. And so a lot of people, they'll see these ads or they'll do their research. They'll stomp into that doctor's office and say, I need Adderall. Give me Adderall.
Yeah.
And, you have to have a good relationship with your physician for them to be able to say, can we talk about alternatives? Can we start with this? Will you be patient? Will you work with me on this? And good for you that you were willing to say, I don't care. Just make the problem stop.
Yeah.
Let's work on it.
Like, I think that's what she thought when I first brought it to her.
Sure.
And that's absolutely understandable because she's sitting across from a former addict who is now bringing up a stimulant.
But way to be humble about that.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many cases I've consulted on where the psychiatrist sends me a patient and says they want whatever, Adderall usually, and I'm scared. And so I want you to sign off on them to make sure before I give them this. And a lot of times it's a dance. We're all working together, but it can be really frustrating when you're the patient.
I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's not frustrating. It is, and it was 2 months before she put me on Strattera.
It's a long wait when you're ready.
Yeah, and I feel like I was pretty much pleading. I was basically just saying, can we just try? Can we just see if this works? And thankfully it did.
That's terrific. Yeah, but I love the way that you've interacted with your healthcare provider, being patient, and even now as you're waiting for appointments with the ADHD center, I love your patience. I think that your resilience and your patience have been huge parts of your story. But I did want to circle back because I don't want to leave any diagnosis undiscussed.
Okay.
When we talk about borderline personality disorder, on the show we've talked a little bit about this, so regular listeners will know I have a love-hate relationship with personality disorders generally. I think they're weaponized a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't love that. I also think a lot of times they end conversations rather than starting them. If I tell you, hey, I think you have ADHD, you're like, okay, so like, what do we do with that? Like, thank you. Like, this is great information. Sometimes borderline or narcissistic or any of these other words just get thrown as like, oh, I noticed you do this in your relationships. Pow, borderline.
Thanks.
Yeah.
What do I do with this now?
Now what? Like, now it's just there. But for some people, it's helpful because it can, if used properly, describe a pattern of symptoms that we can go, oh, okay, now that I know this, how can I become more aware of myself and get better with some of this stuff?
Yeah.
Teach us what borderline personality disorder looked like for you.
I'm definitely narcissistic.
Okay.
Definitely. There's a lot of self-focus.
I'm more narcissistic. Do you see what I did there? See?
Yeah.
See how the joke works? It's fine.
But
I feel like Jacob's gonna. Yep.
Right off the
sensed
glasses.
it. I sensed it.
Left-handed, too.
It's the force. Go on.
Right. So,
This is a great studio for ADHD.
yeah,
Shit
it
just
is.
happens.
I'm like, there's stuff everywhere.
Jacob just threw a knife.
Just things around.
But it's also reminding me of my forgetfulness. I don't know if Paul listens to this, but I've had his Batman DVDs for over a year. And every now and again I remember and I'm like, oh, fuck. And then it's gone again.
Now we get to
for
find out
months.
if Paul listens to Pod Therapy.
Yeah.
I'm going to put money
There's
that he
something in
doesn't.
on it. Yeah, there's something for you, Paul. This is your
Like-
chance.
They're just sitting there. They're just sitting there waiting to be taken back to him. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Borderline personality
Borderline personality disorder. Yeah, so it's a lot of self-focus, but it's like the narcissism is a lot different to how it's portrayed in the
Right.
media and stuff. Like, yeah, I'm thinking about myself all the time, but I'm not thinking about how great I am all the time. I'm thinking
Right.
about what a fucking waste of space I
It's a
am.
self-obsession.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting. It's absolutely exhausting. Splitting is awful, and I will split on anything or anyone. So splitting, for anyone who doesn't know, it's very much black and white thinking, and something is amazing until it's the worst.
Yep.
And yeah, so I'll meet people and I'll completely put them on a pedestal, and then something will happen, and I never want to talk to that person again.
Exactly.
It usually shows up in the form of relationships.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
And there's a lot of sort of confirmation bias that goes with it. So once something has happened that has upset me, all of a sudden I'll think of every bad thing that's happened throughout our relationship, or everything that could have been a red flag throughout our relationship, to show that our relationship was not as good as I thought it was, or this person is evil and out to do me harm and nothing else.
Right.
Because when you're in that state, there is no such thing as ambiguity. It's either the best or it's fucking awful.
Right. Right.
And it happens with jobs as well. Like, an example. When I first got here to Vegas, I was flying. I was so proud of myself and thinking, oh, maybe I am good at shit. And the first time I got any negative feedback, and it was just a note. It was a note. I just plunged into this depression and lost all of my confidence with it. and it can really ruin things for you.
Yes.
That's got to make it hard to work in entertainment,
Yeah.
where you're constantly given notes whether you want them or not.
Yeah.
And everybody is very critical about the job that you're doing.
Yeah.
To manage that would
Yeah,
be incredibly difficult.
It's really, really tough. And being a person who finds it difficult to communicate to, like, sometimes I can come across as really rude without me meaning to, or as if I know better, which sometimes I think I do. So yeah, it, like, all over, it's a really, really difficult thing to have to live with. And I think being self-aware to a point as well makes it a whole lot more difficult. Like, I kind of wish my symptoms were worse so I could just be a bull in a china shop and not give a shit about it. Because again, like, that's kind of how people with borderline or narcissistic personality disorder are portrayed or viewed as. It's like they're assholes and they don't care about it. Whereas the truth, more often than not, is I can be an asshole and I hate myself for it.
Right.
And especially when I'm split, I have very little control over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be very impulsive, and there's a lot of power to it. I remember I asked one person to describe what her borderline was like, and she said, I'm capable of saying, I love you, I can't live without you, get the fuck away from me, and I'll never talk to you again.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can do that to the same person.
Yeah.
And I can do that more quickly than you'd believe.
Yeah. Well, the most famous self-help book for borderlines is called I Hate You, Don't Leave Me.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate you, don't leave me. Gosh.
And that's it. That's entirely it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if my husband and I are having a fight, which we do because we're a married couple,
Sure.
immediately my head goes, leave him.
Mm-hmm.
Just leave him.
Right.
And
Run away.
like, I don't want to do that. Like,
Right.
he's my favorite thing on the planet. He's fucking amazing. Jacob
Right.
knows him. He's great, right?
I don't care for him.
It's a good thing Jacob did that disclaimer. A lot of people would have been very taken aback by that.
to put into context, this man, right? This man gets married. 3 months later, his wife is in rehab. And has not given him a moment's rest ever since. Because she's going on this whole mental health journey. And he's been so patient. And I sent him an episode of Katiosaurus, the ADHD TikToker's podcast, to listen to after we'd had a fight. And he listened to it and took extensive notes.
Oh, wow.
So we could sit and talk about it.
Oof.
Like, this is the kind of man that he is. And outside of my mental health stuff, he's like incredibly creative, probably the most talented performer I know, who has zero interest in being on stage at all. Like, I'm a singer in a show on the Las Vegas Strip. He's a better singer than me, but he won't sing. And like, he's so fucking talented and can do literally anything he wants to do.
Wow.
And when I'm mad, I want to leave him.
Right. And even though you are absolutely in love,
Yeah.
that's what borderline can do.
Yeah.
And this is where it shows up in a lot of relationships. Earlier, I think this was in our Patreon bit or even before we were even mic'd, but we were talking about how that word crazy, just gets thrown around. And we all kind of know because it's an idiom. We use it and we try not to. We're trying to be better about it. But this is an area where I think a lot of people with borderline, that's the way they get described.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, she's a psycho. She's crazy.
Yeah, like I've people will describe me as their psycho ex, and I earned it.
Right. But now knowing the
Absolutely.
bigger picture of like, okay, this pattern, this way that I behave or think, there's words to describe this.
Yeah.
In our last show, we were talking a little bit about this idea of diagnosis. And, as therapists, we're kind of the opinion that it's a very valuable tool and it can be helpful and it can be a burden,
Yeah.
and so we're really, of mixed feelings about it. For you, how do you feel about these words that are used to help describe the things you go through? Were they relieving? Are they difficult to live with?
Bit of both, honestly. I think, to use my mother as an example, she and I are polar opposites with it. She hates her diagnosis. She hates it because she thinks it makes her a bad person, whereas I am relieved about my diagnosis because I think it makes me not a bad person.
Right.
Like, I try not to use it as a get out of jail free card because I still have to be accountable for my actions, and I'm definitely getting better at accountability, even if it takes me a couple hours. But it makes me feel better to know that there's a reason I did this, and it isn't my own choice.
Right. Yeah, it's context. It's more of a full explanation.
Yeah.
We need to take a break because Nick has worked hard to stalk you and come up with really good questions.
No, they're not about her.
Oh.
Is that what you thought?
Yes, that's why I called you a stalker.
I guess that makes sense now, but that's not the case.
When we come back, we're going to ask Charlie how she's adapting with her challenges. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
Oh, hold on, I'm
Good,
getting there.
good job, Jim.
There's no warning.
Nah.
I'm excited for your question.
Perfect. All right.
No, just go with it. That was the one.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Crazy Banana Scoop, Malaya, and Ezekiel Lawrence. Today's trivia theme is Jim's redemption. So, Jim, and only Jim, I'll give you a chance, but we got to let Jim have a chance first.
Let's go.
Jim,
Surge.
what is the difference between Great Britain and the United Kingdom?
Ah, damn it.
If you'd like to join the Therapy Producers and make the show possible, you go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
The British therapist
Hold
that
on,
we
I
interviewed.
have
told me
a
this.
different question
Okay.
that ties in. Jim,
Yeah.
are you aware of a difference between Great Britain and the United Kingdom?
I feel like shapes are trying to form in my head to show me the answer, but then I don't know the names of any of these shapes, brain. They're just these things in the water. Ah. All right.
True or false? There's a difference between Great Britain
All right.
and the United Kingdom.
Here's the answer I'm giving you.
Okay.
I believe the United Kingdom, Sonal told us it's a team of countries. Like England, that's one of them.
Okay. What's
And
another
another
word
one-
for a team of countries? Maybe kingdom?
Yeah. They're united.
Right there in the name, buddy.
That's
Okay.
United?
There's a little island that's in it. So there's England, and then there's Dutchland.
That's it. Yep, Dutchland, sure.
There's the one about fish.
Oh, yeah. You can't forget
There's
about
a
that
fish
one.
one.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's a
Fishland.
fish one.
Yeah.
No, not that. There's one named after fish.
Yeah. Long John Silver's.
No, god damn it. Is it dolphin? It's something like that. Is
So
it dolphin?
We got England, Dutchland, and Dolphin.
Yep.
And Ireland.
Nailing it.
Final
Nailing
answer.
It.
Okay, wait, hold on. So that's
All right,
United
bye.
Kingdom.
I'm
Great
off. I'm
Britain
done.
is like Greater Britain. Like there's Greater Las Vegas,
Great.
which includes like Pahrump and Henderson.
Describe normal Britain.
Well, that's like that. Oh, that's a good point. So that's England. I think that's England, and then Great Britain is all of them, and it's the Irelands too, both of them.
I'll say I
And
genuinely...
Scotland. God, I almost forgot about those people.
I'll say I genuinely don't think we could have gotten a better answer. from
Scotland's
Jim.
in there too.
Yeah. That's,
All right.
that's as good as he's going to get. How close was he?
Yeah, like 90% Like that was it.
Sure,
right?
sure.
I probably got the wrong answer on the fish one, but
You know, whales are mammals, not
yeah,
fish,
whales.
right?
Damn it. Yeah, that was it. Whales.
Oh, at least you figured out what he was trying to
yeah,
say.
I didn't
It's whales.
It took me a minute.
Yeah,
and I'm
I
like,
didn't even put that together.
Yeah, that
like,
was
they're
obvious.
in the ocean, but they're not actually fish. But
Yeah, no, you shut the fuck up over there.
Yeah,
That was
they're
obvious.
mammals. You know, if I had said mammal, everybody
Somebody
would have
give me
thought
a
I was a
break.
genius.
all right,
Nope, nobody would have thought that.
So what was the right answer?
I feel like I'm probably going to get them the wrong way
Oh, I
around
hope
now.
you do. That will redeem me.
So the United Kingdom is the countries in the British Isles that are still under the reign of the monarchy.
Oh, okay.
So that would be England, Scotland, and Wales and Northern Ireland.
Oh.
But Great Britain includes the Republic of Ireland.
Okay. All right. I was real close. I feel like I got that. That was on an American grading curve. Nailed it.
What the fuck are you talking about?
But
I feel like I nailed it.
I'm going to clarify at this point why we all would rather be called British than English.
Okay.
Generally, if someone in Great Britain is happy about the fact that they're English, they tend to be the skinheads.
Oh, so those are...
You racist.
I'm not happy about being
he's-
English.
He's basically referring to me as if I'm racist.
Yes. That's where I wanted to go. Yeah.
Thanks.
That was... Okay, so everybody heard what I was trying to say. Then we're all on the same page.
So
That's fine.
I very much identify as British rather than English because,
see.
the people who fly the Cross of St. George are racist.
Is that like your Confederate flag?
No, because it hasn't been retired and it... Yeah,
and people know what the Cross of St. George is. People don't know what the Confederate flag is.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Confederate flag is a bastardization of something completely different that basically came to prominence with the KKK.
Okay.
Whereas
the Confederate flag is the Confederate naval battle flag.
Yeah,
Is
it.
is what we think of as the
Yeah,
Confederate
it was
flag.
like a little...
No, it's that one.
Oh, it's that one. Okay.
One of the Confederate flags had like the X thing in part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
So the soccer hooligans are the racist people. Is that where we're going with this?
The soccer hooligans are not necessarily racist. They're basically all gangsters, but like the British National Front.
Okay.
Basically the parties that promoted Brexit. They're like, England first.
Oh, yeah, we did that for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got rid of that guy, though. So...
Yeah. Did we?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So anyway.
anyway.
That was good trivia.
Yeah, good segue.
That was
Good
really
segue.
good. Yeah, thank you. I've been doing this podcast thing for a while.
All right.
So, one question I wanted to ask you, as
ahead.
we were just talking about, you've gone through this journey. It's been a one of discovery. It's been one of endurance. And now, here we are in a better place. Medicine has been a big part of your success.
Yeah.
But as we all know, while medicine is part of mental health, it's not the only tool in mental health.
No.
Humans have to do a lot of personal work.
Yeah.
What are some things that you've worked through in your recoveries and also in mental health stuff that have been a big part of your success? Teach us about the psychology side of your life.
Okay. Well, this one is a big one, and it's super new. Systems. Yeah. This is something that I've discovered through focusing on ADHD. Like, really figuring out what my strengths are and aren't, and planning my day accordingly so I can get shit done. And that's a big thing. Dialectical behavioral therapy is something I know I need to do, but nobody's doing group sessions right now because of the pandemic.
And DBT, by the way, also designed for borderline personality disorder. That's where it came from.
Yeah. An old therapist of mine who I really loved, but their office stopped taking my insurance. Fucking America.
Welcome to America.
The reason I'm not in therapy right now is because I was so sad when I could no longer go and see this therapist because they just didn't take my insurance anymore. That I was like, well, fuck this.
Right.
And I know I need to do it, but executive dysfunction. Not that I use my mental health as an excuse
Not
ever.
at all. Not at all. You're working your way toward accountability. You're doing great.
Yeah. I'm like, I know a lot about this stuff. I find it very difficult to be going back to the beginning every time. It's like, I don't want to talk about my trauma anymore. Therapy. My major breakthrough with therapy was sitting in the present and thinking about the future instead of just being focused on my past all the time. My therapist, she really was wonderful, is still wonderful. She's just not my therapist anymore. Like, she scared me to death just by telling me to sit still. I'm like, what? She's like, do you ever sit still without your phone? No, never. Why would I do that? That's horrible. And like, because as soon as you do that, you start thinking about the future. And yeah, the future is terrifying. It's really scary.
I mean, I've heard a lot of people do that as a technique to just kind of be in the present moment and just kind of really be mindful about where you're at right now, and that's it. And just trying to clear your mind of other distractions about the past, the future, what's on social media right now, and just kind of be able to sit and be comfortable with that in the moment. So it seems like that's been helpful for you.
No.
Oh, okay.
You're still trying to work through that.
Yeah, I mean, the knowledge that it's there
Right.
is helpful. And since then, I've spent a lot less time focusing on the past, which is nice. But also another factor in me not being in therapy right now, because I'm like, I'm done with that.
Sure.
Right.
I just want to start right now. So hopefully at the ADHD center, they'll let me do that.
Yeah. And FYI, you can tell a therapist, I've had past stuff. I've done meaningful work on that.
Yeah.
My goals are this. I want to work on these goals. And, for the most part, we'll generally let you guide.
Okay.
I think that's generally true.
That's good
Depends
to
on the
know.
therapist you talk to. But,
Yeah.
that's pretty common. I mean, I think especially when you talk to somebody and they say, I've done therapy before. I've had real success in these areas. This is what I'm here to work on today.
Yeah.
Yeah, most therapists will say, great, let's go in that direction. Earlier, you were talking about splitting,
Yeah.
and you were talking about that tendency to have to manage the emotions that were happening. You used your husband as that example of like, gosh, how tough that can be. And then, loving and hating things and being very impulsive with things. How have you grown in your ability to question your first thought or question your first conclusion or question that first emotion so that you don't follow it into behavior?
I am very good at taking myself to bed these days. And I will do my very best not to make any decisions while that kind of thing is happening. Like, I'll go and put on Love Island or How to Get Away with Murder. Like, something that is going to keep my attention, but not...
You've taken some great art, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
High quality
Like,
cinema.
When I'm splitting, that's when I'm going to watch 90 Day Fiancé.
Aha. Yeah.
It's trash, but it's distracting. And I can channel my anger into those old men instead of the person that has split me. That's not fair. They haven't split me. I split. It's like I distract. I have a lot of thinking putty now. I have putty in every bag and every room in my house. So I've always got something to kind of fiddle with. Binaural beats I'm finding really helpful.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Tell everybody what those are.
So I don't really know much about the science of it. I know that I put it on in my headphones and all of a sudden I feel better. So it's different sound waves, and it goes to different sides of your brain. So certain things will be playing in your right ear and certain things are playing in your left ear, and it just kind of slows down all those synapses, and it's really, really helpful.
I have not heard of this.
Oh, yeah. That's really neat.
Yeah. Actually, the way I found this, and I feel like Jacob's about to twist when I say this. So I'm an atheist, right? Super skeptic. One of the reasons
Jacob's
that we're
clutching
friends
his pearls.
anyway.
Yep,
He's
there I
very
go.
upset.
There I go.
But
Shining up his crucifix over there.
in the last 12 months, I've taken as sort of feminist rebellion plus a way to focus my mind as a person who cannot meditate. Practicing atheopaganism.
Okay.
So I'm practicing witchcraft. I'm not talking to any deities because I don't believe in them. But I was in a forum online for LGBTQ witches. And I said, I find it really difficult to set intentions because I can't focus on anything. And they're like, binaural beats.
That's how you discovered it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Very cool.
So yeah, there's so much knowledge to be found on the internet, particularly amongst gay people.
The treasure trove of knowledge.
The gays know everything.
That's right. That's right. That's funny. But no, the other thing I think that's really important that you just mentioned is for people that live with ADHD, they can get really frustrated because a lot of times whenever you say, yeah, these are my issues, people say, have you ever tried meditation?
Ugh.
And yeah, when you have ADHD, you're like, listen, your heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
You're trying so hard.
Yeah.
You don't understand.
Nothing stresses me
It's
out
a
more than
zoo.
trying to meditate.
My brain is not going to stop doing things, even if I ask it to. And so it actually kind of goes the other direction, where for some people, they actually find that some kind of intentional stimulation actually allows them to focus.
Yeah.
And this goes back to the executive function, which is essentially what ADHD meds are doing, is they're waking up some executive functions to help govern the zoo and help everything get back into order again.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that's something you're exploring.
Yeah, it is for sure. And like the binaural beats, I have different binaural beats playlists for everything I do. And the reason I got onto it, and I'm impressed with myself that I've managed to get back to this train of thought, is if I'm splitting. If I'm feeling really overwhelmed, I hopefully will be able to communicate to whoever it is that I need some space. And I'll go and stick that on and play Candy Crush or read a book or something, because binaural beats, I can read books again.
Right.
Absolutely amazing.
Your brain just settles down and you're like, I'm just reading this word page. Like, this is great.
I used to read and read and read and read, and all of a sudden just couldn't anymore. I mean, I still digest things. I listen to audiobooks and play Candy Crush. That's how I manage. But since discovering binaural beats, I can read again, and it is so nice, especially with the podcast, because I'm doing a lot more reading and research and stuff. So yeah, binaural beats really help with emotional regulation. I'm not going to sit here and claim that I've got it down. I have not. I absolutely have not. Like, I had a really bad turn not long ago where I really frightened myself because I haven't been there in a long time. And the last time that I was there, I lost the relationship that I thought I was going to be in for the rest of my life. So it was really scary. It was really, really scary. But thankfully, I'm with a person now who is understanding. And yeah, we've managed to give ourselves systems so hopefully it doesn't go that far next time.
Yeah, no, I get the implementation of systems and kind of understanding, and it's very helpful to people to be able to kind of create a way of managing situations that you can figure out ahead of time, so you don't have to wait until you're in the moment to come up with a solution. Yeah, you've already come up with one, so when you're there, you're like, okay, these are the next steps we do because we've already planned it out that way.
And like I've already spoken. Not really in any great depth about like the intersection between neurodivergency and kink, and I cannot recommend having a safe word for regular life highly enough, because it is the kind of, because I know that to calm down I need to be alone,
right?
But I cannot communicate that when I'm in a state of needing to be alone, and if the person I'm having a conflict with is also heightened, they're not going to hear me saying that I need space unless we have something to snap us both out of it. Right. So, safe words.
Yes. Yeah.
Safe words, kids.
Yeah.
Like, safe words for vanilla sex, too.
Yeah.
Like,
Pineapple. That's the best one. Also, pineapplesupport.com. A great place to get support and help if you're part of the kink community or in adult entertainment or in sex work. It's actually an entire community dedicated to getting anybody in sex work or pornography access to therapists. usually free of cost.
That's awesome.
And support groups as well. You made me think of that because it's pineapple, and so it's pretty easy to remember.
I feel like I'd be doing everyone a disservice if I didn't point out that a moment ago Jim used the term word pages
Yes.
to talk about books.
Yes. Yeah, that's what they're
just
what
need
they
to,
are.
Just need to mention that
Just
real
think
quick
it's
before we
important.
move on to anything else.
Yeah.
That-
Word pages.
Let's remind everybody, he's an author.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Kind of.
Thank you.
I know. I reviewed his book.
Oh, that's right.
Jesus, I'm so scared to
I
go
can't
see
wait to
this.
see that.
I'm so scared. So let's do this. Let's take one last break, and when we come back, we'll check in on anything that we can plug and support, anything that you're up to. And I always like to wrap with a message to the audience. You know, if you have any words of wisdom or encouragement that you want folks to hear, there could be somebody out there that's where you were months or years ago, and hearing you could inspire them.
I actually have an addition to your answer to a question a couple of episodes
Oh, good.
ago.
Okay.
Excellent.
Uh-oh.
All right.
Oh, that scares me. Usually that means Jim did something wrong. All right. Go ahead. Let's jump into the commercial, and we'll come right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Crazy Manana Scoop, Malaya, and Ezekiel Lawrence. If you would like to sponsor the show and become a therapy producer, go to patreon.com/therapy. Jim's second redemption question of the day is: the current Prime Minister of the UK is Boris Johnson.
Yeah,
That's
duh.
too easy. Wouldn't have given you that one.
Yeah, I knew that.
Who occupied the position before him? If you'd like to join the Therapy Producers and make the show possible, you go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
Immediately before him.
Oh, thank you.
Because you knew I was going to say Winston Churchill?
Yes, that's exactly what you were about
Yeah,
to say.
that was my only out.
Yeah,
Neville Chamberlain would not have been...
Yeah,
accepted.
immediately before
I
him.
know it's not Piers Morgan.
Good.
Oh, Lord.
There are a lot of other people that it wasn't.
Oh, hold on. This will get crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to have to work my way
Wild,
through
I
quite
should
a
say.
few.
I don't want to say
yeah, thank
crazy,
you.
right?
Thank you.
Correct
Good
myself.
correction. Okay. Yeah, I feel like this person had to resign. Oh, yeah. He resigned during Brexit because, like, he put a referendum up, and then everybody, or whatever, Brexit happened, and he was like, I guess I destroyed the country. And he just, like, left.
No.
Okay.
I mean, that happened, but no.
Thank you. See? I was partially right. All right, so
The
immediately
Prime Minister doesn't just resign
before
like that. That's not how that government works.
Boris Johnson. I got nothing. Who is it?
Do you know?
It's Theresa May.
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah. Theresa May.
Whoa. Let's not
Yes.
take it there.
Yeah.
I just don't know English stuff. It
No,
wasn't
'cause
sexist
you-
that I don't know geography.
No, it's...
British.
That was it.
All right.
And he British, again. You've been
British.
corrected like 4 times now.
Sorry.
I'm gonna inject more of my politics
Yes.
into this podcast quickly. I believe that the Conservative Party of the United Kingdom of Great Britain has deliberately
let me get you a music bed
put
here.
the
This
two...
needs a music bed. Here you go.
Okay. All right. So the Conservative Party of Great Britain are basically upholding the patriarchy right now by putting the two worst women in history, in British history, in power as Prime Minister. Like, they're trying to show the world that women cannot be Prime Minister because the two Prime Ministers that we've had who happen to have vaginas are just the fucking worst.
Was Theresa May a bad one?
Yes!
Oh.
Can you name the other one?
Also, not Winston Churchill.
Also,
just going to give you that one.
You watched The Crown? Come on.
Yeah, Diana.
Nailed
oh my
it.
God, no.
Nailed That's a woman. He
enough.
named a woman.
I feel like I was
That's true.
Yeah.
close.
What was Diana's position in government?
we grade him on a
I do
curve.
know
Yep.
it. I do know it. It's the Iron Lady.
Yes.
Margaret Thatcher.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Ah, redemption achieved.
All
Damn, I'm
right.
good at this.
Are you?
Ah, yes. Can't debate success. Slam dunking.
I suppose I can't.
Nope. So, Charlie, we want to wrap up by checking in about things that you're up to, projects that you're doing that we could get the audience to help support.
Lots.
What is something that you're up to?
So just before the pandemic happened, Darby and I started a company, a production company called Quim City Productions.
Cool.
Our plan was to put thinky and nerdy burlesque all over Las Vegas, but then everything closed. So we took ourselves online and we make a lot of Patreon content. We do baking shows on our Patreon. We do weekly horror movie screenings on our Patreon. Well, watch parties on our Patreon. Photo sets and stuff on there. But we have a podcast, which you don't have to be a patron to listen to, although we are
Grateful
very
if you do.
grateful for our patrons. We love money. We really do, and we make it worth your while. We're both sex workers, so we know how to earn it.
How can they find all this?
So Quim City Presents, which is our podcast, is on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Amazon and Google Podcasts, I think.
For all the folks who don't do good with the letters, how do you spell Quim?
Okay, we added an extra M. It's Q-U-I-M-M.
See, I'm glad, because that one M was silent, you know,
Yeah.
so I didn't catch that.
So
Yeah.
Quim is... It's...
Short
very
for Quimberly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very flowery, old British slang for vagina.
Okay, yeah.
We're both...
And short for Quimberly.
Yeah, and
And
Quimberly.
short.
Let's
For
give
Quimberly.
credit where credit is due here. It's also short for Quimberly.
Yeah.
It
we
is
are,
Jim's middle name. So
Yeah,
you should know how to
I
spell it.
kind of know.
yeah, we are both queer, sex-working feminists. I like vaginas a lot. A lot.
Well, you named your show after
They're
it.
just dreamy. It's the valley where dreams are
She's
made.
composing a poem.
Yeah, always. You'll find in any sort of what's the word? Logos that I have in both my personal burlesque performer logo and in Quim City Productions. There's
Somehow always a vagina.
somehow always a vagina.
Well
you just
done.
have to. It's easy to see. In Quim City Productions, our logo is kind of a mid-mod Art Deco Las Vegas sign plus vagina.
Okay. Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
There you go.
Well, that's an American tradition.
Yeah.
We actually hide vaginas into the Declaration of Independence. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Constitution.
So everything we do, be it history, like women or femmes in history, or pop culture, we like to talk about Star Wars a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Discussions of the horror genre or whatever it is we are talking about on a certain day. We come at everything from a very sex work positive, queer, feminist perspective.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We're
So
very much
Quim
about
City
Quim City.
with 2 M's.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We added an extra M, one, because Harley Quinn is part of my professional name,
Mm-hmm.
Quinn. Also, we both have Irish heritage, and in the Gaelic language, 2 consonants, like the same consonant back to back, is good luck.
Oh, I didn't
there
realize
you
that.
go.
Yeah.
Oh, very
That's
cool. So awesome to hear about that project. You also mentioned that you had some commentary on an episode of ours.
Yes. So I was listening to your discussion about OnlyFans.
Okay, anything offensive that was said, that was
No.
Nick.
Not at
Okay.
all. Not at all. I loved the discussion. I thought you guys handled it really well, and
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you so much
Except for Jim.
It was nice until Jim talked.
Thank you for the perspectives and like not being lads about it. I guess
Is that mean dumb men thing?
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I picked that up.
I guess in England we call it lads. Over here we call it chads.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like don't be a chad.
Don't be a
and,
chad.
And you weren't chads about it.
oh,
Like
good.
sex workers work. Sex workers are people, and that was very apparent in the answers you were giving. But I'm trying to remember the word that was actually in the question. It was something like OnlyFans creators predatory in some way.
Oh, yeah, because the loneliness thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Our own, basically, let me see if I can sum it up. Basically, our are people who are on OnlyFans, are the creatives on OnlyFans, in some way preying on the loneliness of a certain amount of people who are taking that art in through their computers and everything.
Yeah. So basically what I had to add to that conversation is sex work is the only profession where that is even a question.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because overwhelmingly sex work is populated by women, femmes, queer folk, and at-risk folk. Like, sex work is not a monolith, so I'm not going to come in on my sex work is a feminist experience for me, and therefore it must be for everyone, because that's not the truth. But the truth is that sex workers are at risk.
Yeah.
Always. And the rhetoric of sex workers being predatory is a way to other them. And that is the kind of rhetoric that, unfortunately, with online algorithms, sends you down a very incel-y path.
Oh.
And because of these kinds of attitudes, women die.
Okay.
Like, it's a very real thing. And I think, of course, it's transactional. And of course, the need that is being met is more complicated than needing to get your car washed or your hair cut. But the fact is, it is a transaction. And I realize that the water gets muddied, and I've had this experience myself, that I haven't been as emotionally available for a subscriber as they would have liked me to be. And yeah, I think any kind of language that goes in any way to demonize these creators and sex workers of any level needs to be treated with great care, because there are forces at play which lead towards very real danger.
Well said.
For the sex workers themselves. And on the one hand, it's like, yeah, maybe they're going to be taking your money, and that's what you have to worry about. We have to worry about our lives.
Yes.
Right.
Well said.
Yeah.
Very, very well said. And I appreciate you. Gosh, man, that is such an important observation that, yes, words like predator. And again, that's not, the writer who wrote that didn't mean any harm. And I appreciate that you didn't
And I got that
them.
as well. Like,
yeah.
I didn't in any way take it as that.
No.
But
good feedback.
Yeah.
Good feedback from your, lived history to speak back to the writer and say, I get it, but also, like, please be wary that those words can hurt and put us in very real danger.
Yeah.
And that is a high-stakes reality. It is, and I appreciate the point. It's complicated in a lot of ways. The emotional need being met is different, but we still have to be really respectful of this. And this is part of destigmatizing sex work in general. A conversation that we, especially in Las Vegas, are having, and I think in many ways pioneering. Yeah. But very important observation.
Yeah. And like, I did say that for me, sex work is a very empowering experience.
Right.
And I'm incredibly privileged to be able to say that. And it would be so great if sex work could be seen as the feminist, powerful thing that it absolutely has the potential to be.
Right.
But the fact that so many sex workers are in it for survival and are under the power of men.
Right. Right.
Right now, it is not a feminist thing.
Right.
It's not a universally feminist thing. But when all's said and done, like, making the most of the patriarchy and paying your bills with it, like, what could be more feminist than that?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm glad that you commented on that. And I've witnessed in 2020, OnlyFans has been a huge opportunity for a lot of women to centralize their own economic power, to not have to, work for these people or those people, to just go directly to the customer and be a performer in a safe way for a lot of them. It's a huge transition, and it's been important, and I think it's developed a lot of livelihoods, kept a lot of people in their homes.
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad to hear a perspective from a first-person experience of, hey, this is kind of what it's like.
Yeah. I am super grateful for my subscribers, though. They are incredibly
You haven't plugged your OnlyFans. You've plugged your podcast.
Like, I don't know. I find it really awkward plugging my OnlyFans because it is supplemental for me. Like, it's not paying all of my bills.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, I am neurodivergent and I don't always have the spoons to be doing it. So sometimes, like, these people can go for weeks and weeks without hearing from me, and they're still subscribing monthly. And I'm just like, I appreciate you guys so much.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can find my OnlyFans through my website, which is charliequinnstarling.com.
Oh, that's useful. Charlie's. Okay, yeah. We probably should have plugged that too.
Charlie Quinn Starling.com. It's Quinn with 2 N's.
Yes.
And you know why? Because
do you
Celtic
know why,
traditions, Jim? It's lucky to have double N's. M's.
Yeah.
N's.
That's true.
Consonants.
Did she add a second N to that name?
The second N is silent.
But no, like, I would rather have everyone go and follow my podcast because it's my passion project. And like, it means so much to me to be able to do it, and like, I'm having so much fun. And
tell you what, let's make a deal with everybody. If you're going to go to charliequinnstarling.com and follow her OnlyFans page, also get on there and follow the podcast as well.
Yeah. There you go. We'll
Yeah.
call
So
it
if you're going to do the
2-for-1 deal.
OnlyFans, definitely also do the podcast.
You're missing out.
Yes.
yeah.
Get all
That's
the
the deal.
experience. I love it.
Our MO is cerebral sluttery.
Oh, I love that.
So come to the
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, come to the podcast for the cerebral, and then
Stay for the sluttery.
slip into my DMs on OnlyFans and we'll make some custom content.
There you go.
And if
Perfect.
you want to pick a character that I already love, I'm gonna
Helpful.
probably give you extra shit. Like, I've just had a subscriber ask me to do Scarlet Witch, and I'm like, yes! I've been waiting for this opportunity. I've been waiting for an excuse to buy this cosplay. Fantastic.
Now,
There
do
you
you
go.
already do Citizen Kane or no?
No.
Okay. Well,
But
all right.
like I say, slide into the DMs.
No,
We
no,
can
I don't.
have
I
a
mean, I don't
chat.
know.
We
If-
can
Yeah,
if-
talk
I've
about
got
it.
some weird Winston Churchill kinks. Is that cool? I'm just
Oh,
gonna
we
just
figured
work
that
that
out.
in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
fine.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
this could go really interesting. So the
Sometimes a
last,
cigar is just a cigar, Jim.
so the last thing we need to do as we come to the end of the show, we want to give you an opportunity to speak directly, to the audience member that might still be hurting, the audience member who might feel hopeless, the audience member who might, feel that they've lost patience with the process, or the audience member who's still actively self-medicating with drugs or alcohol and just doesn't have control. We want to make sure that we're taking a second to give them a human message of hope. And so I want to give you a chance to just speak to that person. If there's somebody out there, what advice would you give them?
Oh, that made me really emotional. If you think it's going to help, it's probably not going to help. The more difficult path in the end is a lot more rewarding. I realize that there is little in this world that is more difficult to navigate than the healthcare system in the United States. But persevere, and if you can find someone to sit with you while you're calling and being rejected by all of these different medical offices, please do that, because that's a massive help too. Just having someone sitting beside you, they don't even have to say anything. So I guess find the confidence to ask somebody to be your body double and just sit beside you while you're doing these things. And just keep making phone calls until something hits. Because alcohol and drugs are really easy to get a hold of, but they only last so long.
Yep.
Yeah, alcohol and
Well
drugs
said.
you can get in the corner. Medicine and therapy you have to go find.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, getting healthy is not as fun initially, but like there is some real fun to be had sober and functioning.
Congratulations on 4 years and new advances in your mental health journey, new accomplishments. Thank you for being an example of resilience, for being honest and open, being willing to share your human story. It changes lives.
Thank
You know,
you.
all of us are doing this together, right?
Yeah.
Humanity's a
Can I
team
plug
sport.
Katiosaurus's podcast
Yes,
really
please
quickly?
do.
I know that they are trying to make this their full-time job too, so go and listen to Katie and Eric's Infinite Quest if you have ADHD or you think you have ADHD or you just want to listen to some really funny people getting themselves in verbal knots.
That's wonderful. Is it Katie with a K or a C?
With a C.
Okay.
Yeah,
the
it's
K is silent.
Yeah, it's a great podcast anyway. It's a lot of fun to listen to. They play D&D and
Oh,
they call
nice.
it ADHD&D.
That's
Excellent.
perfect.
But yeah, they've helped me a huge lot already. So, yeah.
Well, Charlie, thank you so much for joining us. This has just been so much fun. I feel like we've learned so much, and I appreciate your honesty. This is wonderful. You were very inspiring today.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, I hope so.
Well, I think that you were. Well,
Yeah.
we are bringing the show to an end, and as we look to the ending, we've got to thank our patrons.
Yeah, especially want to thank our bosses, the Saccharin 16, Mysterious and Shrouded Illuminati, members of our fan club, the Theraproducers. So thank you to Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mintz, Kayla Lansbury, Ellie O'Dare, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben Don, Crazy Manana Scoop, Mason Miller, Scott Jameson, Carolyn Albert, Leon Kassab, Kevin Chamberlain Malaya, Richard Macy, and Ezekiel Lawrence.
And guys, if you'd like to hear more, and you can actually hear more of our interview with Charlie before we started jumping into the real show, you can go find that, as well as our spontaneous side projects and other extra things that we do at patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health. That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, Matt Mattingly's Ice Cream Social Podcast. And thanks to those of you who contributed today, specifically Charlie Quinn with 2 N's Starling. Nailedit.com. Pod therapy is not something that you should keep all to yourself. Share this episode with someone who needs it by opening this episode's description in your podcast app and copying and pasting that link we provided into your social media. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, and at patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I'm the Prince of Whale Island.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.
Just call it SeaWorld, really. It's probably not, didn't exist back then. That's when